All right, we're week 16 is complete, the All-Star week. I have had some internet issues, so I might have to split this video up into some parts. We'll see what I can do. This is the long week, so the biggest sample size. This should mean best teams are going to win more consistently because they have longer to prove their superiority over teams that aren't so good. So I've got the results on the screen right now. That wasn't supposed to be commentary on any of these scores, even though I kind of set it up that way. I have a 13-1 victory over JW, which puts JW on the line as the sixth place team with a couple teams nipping at his heels, even though those teams may not actually want to be in the playoffs. They're close. So 13-1 for me. A 10-5-1 victory. Bo beats Frank. Frank's not necessarily in jeopardy of losing his playoff spot. It seems pretty secure. I think he's 19 games up of sixth, but Bo continues to play really well. Little shout out to him. He's the cover athlete of this week's video. You can see his little icon behind me, and I'll show you that in a second. 8-8 tie between Jeremiah and Brad. Both of them trying to keep ground in the Ohtani chase. Brad is very close. I think he's 3.5 back of seventh, and Jeremiah's a little further back. He's just got off to a worse start. Alex with a big win, a big performance, 12-4 over Corey. It was the 31st best week of all time in our league's history for Alex this week, the third best week in the season for 2025 for any team. So huge performance there, much needed. He'd been on a little bit of a slide. And so now at least he has 1 week of really good stuff to go on as he thinks about his final push to buy, presumably try to make a push this year. Casey with a 10-6 victory over Matthew, who this is an interesting one because Casey's now in 5th place in the standings. I don't think that's where he wants to be, although I'm sure he would take some enjoyment out of making the playoffs. I think he wants to be in the Ohtani sweepstakes. Maffey has made a subtle buy, has been interested in another buy, might be interested in more that I don't know about. So I think this was disappointing for the both of them. Maffey to lose and maybe Casey to win. But 10-6 there. And Nate with a 12-4 win over French, who threw 109 innings. Pretty wild. 10 quality appearances. Still beat Nate in batting average against, despite that. But otherwise was pretty much handled by the offense of Nate. Let's show you the image of the week here, the thumbnail. This is Bo staring helplessly as he watches his team crush it and heading towards a playoff berth. He's had the second best VTL of the last 5 weeks, 3 games back the playoffs now, and he's won 3 of the last 4. That means that he is in 7th as of today, the magical 7th place position. If the season ended right now, he would have the rights to draft Ohtani if he chooses, as well as the rights to JW's pick, who in a crazy world could finish 7th, though I don't expect that. So Bo's sitting pretty. His only problem is he might be too good. As I've showed here, he's got the second best VTL of the last 5 weeks. That means better than Nate, better than Frank, better than Alex, better than JW. If Bo wanted to strategically buy and get a little bit better for really cheap wherever he could and sneak into the playoffs and just see what happens, I would be really curious. I'd be really curious, but I don't think that's in the cards probably. But hard to turn down 7th when that's where you are. Anyways, I'm going to pause here just to make sure we get this and I don't have to interrupt it at another time, and then I'll do another video for the next part. All right, so here is our big dashboard for all of the numbers this week. So here are the things I saw that I guess I consider interesting. We have our updated standings, right? Me and Nate are separated by a half game. And when you look at the upcoming opponents, we have the 2 easiest schedules. Easy is very relative. This is based on VTL standings, and that does not mean you are actually good or bad. Or no, excuse me, not VTL rankings, but power rankings standings. That does not mean good or bad. That's just my assessment. But if you were to chalk it up to that, we have the 2 easiest schedules. And so you might almost infer that the number 1 seed is going to be just who wins more, obviously. But we're probably going to win a couple of these games. but who can really dominate them most. Um, you've got Frank sitting 19 games up of a playoff spot. Alex with his big win and Frank's loss is now just 10 games back of Frank. I don't know that that's really a meaningful thing, being third as opposed to fourth. You're going to have to play Nate or I if you can win your first round matchup, which is obviously not a guarantee at all. Uh, but he's gaining. Casey is now in fifth, as I already talked about. He's 2 games up of JW, who's in sixth, who is 3 games up on Bo, who is only half a game up on Matthew, who's only 3 games up on Brad. All kinds of competition here within the 5 to 9 spot. And it's funny in that I think maybe 3 of these teams don't want to be in the playoffs, and 2 of them do. So if it shakes out where JW and Matthew in, Casey, Bo, and Brad out like everyone wants, I'm not going to be shocked at that. But in a world where you cannot miss your innings to tank, you've got to find a creative way to tank, I guess. If you're Casey or maybe Bo, or I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see these last 5 weeks how they play out. Here are the win streaks. Nate has won 3 in a row. I've won 5 in a row. Casey has won a couple in a row. Those are the only real win streaks. And then Mappy has lost 3. Jeremiah technically hasn't won in 2 weeks. One of those was a tie. French lost 4. Corey lost 3 in a row. Upcoming schedules you can see here. Basically, the top 5 teams have the easiest 5 schedules, which is weird. So Casey, who I believe wants to lose a few games, most likely to fall back into the non-playoff mix. He's got Nate, Frank, and JW back to back to back. French has Alex, JW, and Justin. Brad has Frank, Alex, and Nate. Maffey has Justin, Corey, and then Frank. So a lot of the teams on the bubble who probably don't want to make it to the playoffs are about to face, in theory, some stiff competition. So this will all probably work out the way everyone pretty much wants it to. VTL wise, I have the highest VTL now by 3.5%, which is a decent margin. Nate just continues to be more like a 56, 55 to 56% team. I'm more like 58 to 60. So we've separated a little bit. Nate and Frank are now much closer than myself and Nate. And then there's about the same size gap between myself and Nate as there is between Frank and Alex. But every week it changes a little bit. By the time we're at week 16, you're seeing a lot of data from months ago that maybe isn't as valuable here, which is why I like to separate it out into the last 5 week numbers. So you can see down here, bottom left, this table here, it's going to show you my tier assessment of each team. The Fantrax rank, and then the record of the last 5 weeks, and then the VTL of the last 5 weeks. Here is where you will see Bo is a 54.5% VTL team over the last 5 weeks. That's not a small sample size. Obviously, that's like a third of our season. And 54.5 would put him in third if that were to be his season-long VTL. And again, second best over the last 5 weeks, better than Nate, better than Alex. Those are the 2 closest, third and fourth best. So I have Bo as a tier B team. He's made the jump. To me, if he wanted to participate in the playoffs, I'm not going to be that much more surprised if he wins a week as I would with Frank, Alex, or JW. He has beaten Frank, lost 8-7 to 1 to Nate. Played someone else really tough. I think it was Maffey the week before that. Maybe someone else in between there. It looks legit to me, like the young talent just is popping in a way that I wouldn't have anticipated, because Bo went, I mean, we all know at this point, Bo went way in on the youth movement, which I think the only other team we've seen do something like that was Maffey, and frankly, it wasn't super successful in the latest iteration from Maffey. Maffey's been a perfectly good manager and has had good teams, but maybe it seemed extreme, and Bo's seemed equally extreme to me, but his is working pretty well. Helps when you have a guy like Kurtz, who goes nuts for like 23 total bases or something the other day. But clearly not a fluke. 5 weeks long. Sorry to just keep talking about Bo forever, but not a fluke when you're 5 week stretch, like a third of the season, you were up there. So I don't know. I just had fun thinking about what if Bo decided to just go for it and just say, forget Ohtani. I'll take whatever I get. Anyway, pretty fun. Good for Bo. let's talk through some of the other results. I do have a bunch of written up stuff here, so maybe I'll just talk through that in a moment. Only other standings notes are that I have Maffey and Casey in Tier C kind of by themselves. Um, it feels like we have an even number of teams who want to go for it and an even number of teams who don't. And so I assume we're going to end up Justin, Nate, Frank, Alex, JW, and Matthew in the playoffs, with Casey, Bo, French, Corey, Brad, Jeremiah not in the playoffs. But doesn't always work like people plan. So one giant 16-0 win from a team that's not really even trying to push the envelope could doom them to make the playoffs. You just don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. Opponent luck percentages, it's really played out where Justin, myself, Nate, and Frank have all been really lucky down the stretch, just to kind of help boost. They've had the best VTLs and they've been the most lucky. Those are independent factors. Um, so it's pretty wild. Therefore, they're the top three seeds. That's most everything. Let me just go through really quickly the positive and negative notes from each team. For myself, number one in the power rankings this week. Over the last 5 weeks, Justin has lost only 19 categories and has the league best VTL by over 9%. So yeah, my 63.4% VTL. It's not like super team good over the last 5 weeks, but it's reaching a new level. Like no one in our league has been above 60% really at any point this season. So for me to be at 64% over a 5 week stretch, definitely you can see the results of buying some. It's manifested itself mostly in offense because my pitching has stayed pretty much at the top. My my note on luck, my opponents have finished with a sub 50% VTL 12 weeks in a row. So I've been good, but my opponents also just have found ways to be bad when they play me. That's quite lucky, obviously. Nate's notes, despite non-elite VTLs, Nate keeps winning. By week's end, we'll know if he's the outright favorite because he still has his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everything. Well, not everything. Like some of the late single-digit picks are gone, but in fact, let's look. Let's look because this is going to be the big X factor of the week, probably. He's the only one with a first. He's the only one with a second that's going to probably spend it, unless Frank or Matthew, guys want to really get in the game. Nate's the only one that's going to buy a big package from here, and he has a first, a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth. So no seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. He's already spent them individually, like little packages here and there. But with 1 through 6 at his disposal, I mean, I'll be freaking shocked if he has more than one of those picks left by the end of the week. So it's just a matter of who will give him what and how much better will he become with those 2 to 3 massive 5-man acquisitions. So we'll see. The negative note is with 56.4% season-long VTL, even with a full unloading of picks, he probably won't feel like a super team, which I think is a great positive. I don't think we have one of those. Now he may rise up into kind of like my 60-something% VTL level, but I don't feel like we're headed for a 70% VTL team or something upper 60s or anything crazy, which is what we've pretty much seen the last 3 years before this. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place because of so many people going for it. We're in a pretty good place competition wise. This should be a really fun playoffs to watch because I truly feel like anything could happen. Frank, he's been pedestrian lately, but the bats are scorching hot. 66.2% VTL over the last 8 weeks. That's fantastic. I mean, he's a stone's throw away from becoming the best offense in the league until Nate buys, right? Again, this is kind of a caveat. Nate's number one already, and he hasn't really bought in. So when he does, he's going to obviously need to address pitching, but his offense will get better. There's no doubt. He's going to acquire at least 5 offensive players in addition to whatever pitchers he's getting. So all of these notes a little bit of a TBD kind of feel. But Frank's offense has been amazing. It's just been the pitching has been below 50% VTL for the season now. So that's clearly if he needs to upgrade, that's where it should be. Yeah, he added Zach Wheeler, but a good place to start, obviously. But I think he probably needs more. So Frank has been above 50% VTL just once in the last 4 weeks, and he is sub 500 over that stretch. So 35, 39, and 6 to be exact over the last 5 weeks. That doesn't seem to be a strong indicator that Frank's going to win three games in a row in the playoffs, but obviously you just never know. Alex, it was a monster 76.42% week from Alex, third best total VTL of 2025, and the 31st best week ever. Following 36, 42, and 47% weeks, this was much needed. Alex still has ammunition to buy. Let's look at what he has specifically. He spent his first and second, I think, and his third. So he has a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. Everything between 4 to 9. Obviously can't outbid Nate for much. Neither can I, neither can JW. But that is not an insignificant amount of picks. Alex was super aggressive buying in, got tons of talent back, but he's classically been maybe on the more on the conservative side. So I'm curious to see what he does, if anything, with those picks. He may say, look, I am what I am at this point. We'll see what happens, but not go all in. It also depends. There isn't just some, there aren't 3 teams with packages of great players available at this point. We've bought a lot as a league, so I'm not sure what he wants to do, but we will see. It's only a couple days left. JW, it was the lowest total VTL for JW since week 5. I think you got to just throw it out as an outlier. His team's been much better lately. He's been winning lots of games. This week got beaten badly, but you got to just kind of tip your cap and move on, I think. Because JW is all in for 2025, although he is not really locked in for the playoffs, as I talked about. He really needs to handle Bo, French, and Casey, his next 3 opponents. He probably can win all of those. And so I don't think there's any real reason to be overly nervous about missing the playoffs yet, because again, I think we're headed for this 6-6 path. But he's invested a lot. So if he were to miss the playoffs and he does not own his own first round pick, that would be a disaster. I don't think there's any other way to say it. Bo, who does own JW's first round pick, in what has become my favorite storyline of 2025, Bo has the second best VTL over the last 5 weeks. I already talked about this one a ton. I assume he wants 7th, but this is a playoff-worthy team if he was to buy smartly and go for it. 7th is Mappy. Not a ton of positives unless he wants Ohtani. The pitching is in 3rd place, but it's also within 2% of 7th. So it doesn't feel like there's really a strong side to lean on in a playoff run. I've said how I think he wants to make the playoffs, right, because he bought Matt Olson, but he also could just keep Matt Olson. That's not bad value. He was in on the Seager talks, which that's not great keeper value, even if Seager is really, really, really good. So that was interesting. I'm not sure that he wants to compete, but it seems like it. My question is that still wise? So that's 3 straight losses with Nate, Frank, and Justin still to come in 2025. He may buy in and miss the playoffs. And so, in my opinion, it's time to at least start thinking. I mean, this is the week, right? This is the big week. He has to make a big decision. It might be time to think about selling. And that may be where Nate focuses, if so, or Alex or myself, or Frank, or Bo, anybody. Casey, despite a 43% VTL, Casey gets a 10-6 win and he rises up to 5th place. I am unsure if that should be in the positive or the negative spin section. Casey's next 3 opponents are Nate, Frank, and JW. So, assuming he's not loving being in 7th, he probably doesn't need to do anything about it. He's probably going to fall back a little bit because those are 3 of the best teams in the league. Probably A-okay with him. French, the VTLs have been good lately, except for this week, but he cratered to 19.8% VTL. That's really, really bad. 2026, the picks, though, lots of picks. So looking pretty decent for 2026. Having lost 4 in a row and selling everything but the now injured Judge, French is not going to get 7th. That's my take on that. But he still looks pretty decent compared to some of these last teams. Corey, I want to say there's no way he can gain 19 games in 5 weeks to get Ohtani, but the VTL is still decent. I mean, it's 6th best in the league for the season. So again, Corey, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about your bad luck again, but it is statistically just wild. About 59.1% opponent batting for the season. Just crazy, unlucky. So there's a potential for Corey to still go on a run there, and maybe he won't get up to Ohtani, but I'm not saying I won't put anything on Corey not finishing in with one of the best 3 picks, meaning he climbs either 7th, 8th, or 9th. The talent still seems to be there. Of course, he is probably the prime candidate to sell to Nate. Um, with guys like Riley expiring, big contracts of Acuna. Um, there's still some talent on his team which he may sell, and I don't think Acuna is moving for less than a first probably. So um, yeah, we'll see what the Corey last few days looked like. Brad, biggest positive thing for him probably is that despite the league's worst VTL, he's just 3.5 games back. So I think he's overperformed a little bit. Although everyone's VTL is really close at the bottom. So I mean, being the last place VTL doesn't mean that much. Um, Still, he should be pleased to be within range. However, that said, he's facing Alex, JW, and myself next up. No, Frank, Nate, and Alex. Not me. I guess I had that wrong. That's a tough three guys to face. I'm kind of skeptical he's going to stick right around that top line. I don't think he's going to finish in seventh, but we'll see. And for Jeremiah, he hasn't torn things all the way down to the studs, so he has some talent still. There is room for an Otani chase. He's only 13 games back, 10 games back of seventh. Definitely could still happen. He hasn't had a particularly lucky season either. Um, he put himself in a little bit of a hole by losing early and often, but he could still climb up a little bit and try to make a push for seventh. So I bet you this is a pretty long video. I think I'm just going to leave it there. But this is going to be the big week. Maybe I'll do a video after the trade deadline. No, I won't, actually. I will be in Estonia. So whoops, didn't think about that. Yeah, we'll see if anyone wants to get together on Wednesday. I'm game. But if not, I'll have to put out a video, not next week, but the following week. I'm going to have to miss next week. I will be out of the country, and I am not doing this on vacation. So hope you enjoy this long one because, yeah, you're going to have to wait 2 weeks. I think that's it, though. See you next time.